Hey guys, it's Eddie and today I am back with another movie review for you all. Now today's movie that I'll be reviewing has been requested of me. It is a film from 1979 and it is called Breaking Away. It's directed by Peter Yates and it stars Dennis Christopher, Dennis Quaid, Daniel Stern and Jackie Earle Haley. And it centres around a 19-year-old boy called Dave, played by Dennis Christopher, and his three friends, who in their community are known as cutters, which is a derogatory term referring to the cutting in the limestone quarry, which is kind of integral to their town. But they're referred to as cutters by the college kids, who they have a little bit of a rift with. There is a feeling of competition there, and the cutters don't like the college kids and the college kids don't like the cutters. That just seems to be the way it is. But Dave and his friends, they are very sort of hung on sticking together, but they also in reality need to get a job or they need to get into college, and those two options don't seem particularly appealing either way. But Dave doesn't find either of them appealing because he's absolutely obsessed with Italy and he's obsessed with cycling, and he tries to pursue this, and this causes a little bit of friction between him and his friends, and especially between him and his father. But let's just get straight into the analysis. What I immediately enjoyed about this film was the relationship between Dave and his father and the scenes that this provided. They had a really quick, witty back and forth with each other in the initial scenes, and you could see the contrast between this bewildered and almost disappointed father with his bubbly and ambitious son. And I think that this sort of chalk and cheese relationship provided some really funny moments in the beginning, such as the scene when Dave's dad walks into his room and sees that he's shaving his legs, and the look of horror, utter and complete horror on his face is a picture. And I think that the directing in that moment and moments that are similar really helped amp up the comedy. You know, there was this really close-up look on the father's face that, which was quickly cut to something else. And I thought that was a brilliant element of comedy that was in the film. And later on in the film, when things happen and things get a little bit more serious and Dave's dad realises how much this means to him, it provides some really, really lovely and emotional moments as well. Obviously, Dave's father still retains that comedic element, but it becomes a little more touching, and I think that some of the best scenes I found were between Dave, Dennis Christopher, and his father in the film. I think that this film captures brilliantly that meandering summer element that we've seen in a lot of films, but also that wasted youth thing, because it explores this uncharted, I think, element of the rivalry and the rift between small town boys that, have to face the reality of getting a job and aren't sure what they're doing with their life, and college kids who are on their way to perhaps seeking great potential and making the most out of their life. And it reinforces that ideal of the outside looking in, especially when the four boys are watching the college players on the pitch, like from the stands. I think that, that element of following high school and not knowing what to do and feeling utterly lost is really prominent in this film, but I think it's elevated by that rivalry between the college kids and the cutters. For example, Mike, played by Dennis Quaid, says, "I'm going to be 30-year-old Mike, and then I'm going to be old man Mike," and it's just, he feels like he's wasting his life. And I think there's a brilliant arc in this film where the boys eventually come to appreciate who they are. They come to appreciate the fact that they're cutters, but they also appreciate the fact that the gulf between cutters and college kids isn't actually that big, and it's no great shame to cross those boundaries. And I think that was a really interesting thing to watch progress in the film, and it's something that I definitely enjoyed as an element of the movie. I think there was excellent, really funny dialogue, especially between the four main boys. And I think that's just evidence of a great screenplay by Steve Tessish, or Tessich. I'm not quite sure how to say it. I just have a terrible track record of wrongly pronouncing names in these reviews. But yeah, I think that there was really, really memorable quips in this film that I immediately sort of pounced on and was like, that's really funny. And I think that some of the best moments in this film were obviously, as I said, between Dave and his father and between Dave and his friends. I think they provided some really, really funny moments, and I think that the boys generally just like bounced off each other, especially in those moments down at the quarry. They were really great and really interesting in my opinion. Now, it could be argued that this film really did use simple traits and simple arcs as a baseline. So Dave gets involved with a college girl, so she drops her book, he chases after her. Or in terms of Dave as a character, Dave is ambitious, Dave does something he wants to do, that doesn't go too well, he gets downtrodden for a bit, the relationship with his father gets mended, and then everyone becomes supportive, then he goes on and does what he wants to do. Those are tropes that we've seen before, but I feel like those tropes were elevated by this movie in a certain way. So obviously with the relationship between Dave and Catherine, the college girl, that sort of old-time trope of her dropping her book is elevated by the fact that he then goes on and pretends to be an Italian exchange student out of nowhere just to impress her. I thought that was very funny, and I just thought that I think it was the characters that really elevated a plot and an arc that we may have seen time and time again. And obviously we've seen that typical youthful meandering, wandering through life story a lot. We've seen it in things like The Graduate, and a lot of teen movies in general. But the cycling subject really added an interesting dynamic to this film. And I will admit, when I first read that the subject of this film was mainly cycling, I was like, kind of drew back a bit, because I was a bit like, I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy this. This isn't really the kind of film that I usually watch. As you guys know, I'm more of a gangster horror. Well, I guess I'll enjoy anything, but immediately I was like, this might not be great. But I think that the cycling element wasn't too overbearing in this film. There were still deeper elements that were prominent, such as the college and cutter rivalry, such as that trope of teenagers not knowing what they're going to do in life. And I don't feel like the film was, solely about cycling, which was good. It gave you some leeway to enjoy other things as well, with cycling just being a sort of an interesting way to project these subjects. I will say that I did become initially a little bit bored with the cycling sequences, such as Dave cycling behind the truck, and some of the races. I was a bit like, okay, when is this going to end? Because obviously, as I said, not the greatest subject for me to sit down and enjoy. I thought they were a little bit lengthy. But when it came to the final race, I was kind of very intrigued to see how it would go, and I did find myself rooting for the characters in the end. I think this film is full of quirky moments, such as Dave and Cyril serenading Catherine from her window, and this was juxtaposed very cleverly, I thought, with Dave's parents sort of rekindling romance and having a romantic dinner. I thought that was brilliant. And I really enjoyed those kind of quirky elements in this film. I did really enjoy it. I surprised myself with how much I enjoyed it, because, as I said, it wasn't initially something that I thought I would really like. But I think the characters really tied you to the storyline, so where you might think that you might not enjoy it, the characters really ensured that you did. And as I said, if you're not a fan of cycling, don't worry, because that is not the only thing in this film. It's a hefty part of it, but it doesn't bore you to tears, because I think the arc with Dave's story is something that really ties you to the film. You do find yourself rooting for him, you do find yourself rooting for his friends, and I did find myself incredibly interested in the relationships that developed in this film, and I really enjoyed it. I thought the acting was good. It wasn't spectacular, of course, but I don't think this film was supposed to be spectacular. Is it my favourite film ever? Would I immediately watch it again straight away? No, but I thought it was a decent film, and it was full of really funny moments, and yeah, it wasn't completely nullified by the cycling element. So overall, I think I'd give this film a 4 out of 5 stars if I had to give it a rating. As I said, it's a teen movie at heart, so any teen movie fans could give it a go. Any sporting movie fans similarly could give this a go, because it has those two twin elements in it. But that is my review of Breaking Away. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Remember, you can request movies for me to review by commenting below or messaging me on my Tumblr. Link is always in the description, but that is it for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!